But we begin tonight with 4 words. What have we done? That was the late-night text message that Keith Davidson, the former lawyer for Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels, sent to the former editor of the National Enquirer, Dylan Howard, on the night of the 2016 presidential election. Today, in a New York City courtroom, Davidson continued his testimony in the first criminal trial of a former U.S. president, Donald Trump, claiming that in the text, there was an understanding between him and Howard that, quote, our activities may have in some way assisted the presidential campaign of Donald Trump. Those activities, referring to the brokering of hush money agreements alongside Trump's former personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, and the former publisher of The Enquirer, David Pecker, to keep McDougal and Daniels silent about their alleged sexual encounters with Trump ahead of the 2016 election. The prosecution has used Davidson to lay the foundation and background for how the $130,000 payment to Daniels came about, to explain Cohen's motivation to keep Daniels quiet in the context surrounding her denials after the fact about the story when it went public. Today, the defense also got their opportunity to cross-examine Davidson, invoking what appeared to be a 2-pronged strategy. The first was to make it very clear that Davidson had no direct connection to Trump and could not prove that Cohen or Howard were actually acting on Trump's orders. In fact, before today, the two men had never even been in the same room. The other was to try to undermine Davidson's credibility by implying he had associated himself with people who had bad reputations and seemed to suggest that Davidson engaged in extortion for celebrity gossip, a point the witness repeatedly denied. And this followed this morning's second gag order violation hearing, where the prosecution made their case for 4 additional violations by Trump. It comes after Judge Juan Marchand ruled earlier this week that Trump had violated the gag order 9 times already, fining Trump $1,000 for each violation and warning him that continued violations could lead to jail time. Court will be back in session tomorrow at 9:30 in the morning. Joining me now, Suzanne Craig, investigative reporter for The New York Times and MSNBC contributor who was at the courthouse today. Melissa Murray, law professor at New York University and MSNBC legal analyst. And Lachlan Cartwright, former executive editor for The National Enquirer, who is now a special correspondent for The Hollywood Reporter. Thank you all for being here. Suzanne, give me your impressions on today. What stood out?
Well, it was a real grab bag. So I have to say, when I was going into court this morning, I actually read the indictment over again because I just really wanted to focus myself on exactly where this is heading, which is those 32 counts. And I think what we saw today was a lot of smoke, but we saw more about the conspiracy in terms of what was going on. And we saw I thought kind of one of the most important things we saw was on cross-examination of Keith Davidson. Some people think the lawyers maybe should have just stopped at, have you ever met Donald Trump?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But they just kept going, and they really dirtied him up. They dragged him into a guy who was dealing with sex tape brokers, and trying to extort people. It was really ugly, and he was very uncomfortable. But I think what they were trying to do at the end of the day was to make it look like Michael Cohen is an unsavory fellow, and this guy's an unsavory fellow, and Donald Trump was the victim of an extortion plot.
That they were trying to extort him.
If I had to extract something from all the craziness that was this afternoon in court, I think that's sort of where I landed, was that Donald Trump, once again, was a victim of in this case, these 2 unsavory guys.
It doesn't feel like that would make sense, and a New York jury might doubt that Donald Trump, because, these are New Yorkers, they're going to know who that is. What do you make of that strategy of trying to dirty up Keith Davidson, make it look like he was maybe extorting Trump?
So, I think the dirtying up of Keith Davidson, of any of these witnesses, is critically important for the defense. I think we saw the dirtying up of Michael Cohen, and he hasn't even taken the stand. I think the TLDR of today was everybody hates Michael Cohen. We heard a lot about how unreliable he was, how needy he was. He's just an unsavory guy. Keith Davidson also was there to corroborate Michael Cohen's story, and it was necessary, I think, to drag him a little too, as well as Stormy Daniels. He was also testifying as to the nature of the payments to Stormy Daniels, and not only did he get portrayed as a serial extortionist, she was also painted as someone who was trying to extract this money from Donald Trump before the November 2016 election because she didn't believe he would win. woman, and therefore her story wouldn't be valuable after the fact. So there was this rush to do this. Michael Cohen was trying to get it done, and so was Keith Davidson. So they're all in cahoots, and the only person who's not in cahoots is Donald Trump.
So is that credible as somebody who actually worked there?
I mean, it rings true. I mean, today for me was fascinating because it was almost like a tabloid rerun of, Lindsay Lohan, Hulk Hogan, Charlie Sheen. We had all these sort of characters that we had written about in the Inquirer brought back to life via Keith Davidson's testimony. And in that cross, I was watching Keith Davidson as the defense were really going for him. Yeah. And you could see he was getting more and more agitated. And he kept saying it's consideration. He turned up his nose at the use of hush money and these payments, but it was consideration is how he phrased it. And, inquiring minds want to know where Dylan Howard is because he keeps coming up. He keeps coming up in court. Yeah. And very much in that message, what have we done? Yeah. And we're still, we're several days in and we don't know, where he is. He's in Australia,
but witness.
Where he hasn't been up here.
Yeah. I think one really kind of notable thing, though, today was how they went after Keith Davidson in a way that they did not go after David Pecker on cross. And it was notable. And David Pecker is the guy. He's
the one who made the deal. He's the one who paid for it.
So you can look at these two in isolation and we can talk about it. The opening question on cross was, have you ever met Donald Trump? Yeah. Boy, David Pecker sure has.
Yeah, absolutely. And he seems to revere him.
And they really, I thought, comparatively went pretty light on him on cross.
Why would they do that? Why do you think they would? Why go light on him?
Well, I know we're going to talk about the gag order in a little bit, but I thought it was really interesting that one of the episodes that was raised in the second request for enforcement of the gag order was a statement that Donald Trump had made in response to some reporters' questioning at a hearing or at a press conference that would happen before the trial. And it was about David Pecker. He's asked a lot of questions, but he chose to answer this question about David Pecker. And he said, David Pecker is a nice guy. David's really nice. David's really nice. And the intimation that the prosecution was making was, this is basically skirting right up to the edge of witness tampering and influence. He's basically like, David, you're going to be really nice to me, right? It would be really unfortunate, David,
if you weren't nice anymore.
Nice. Yeah. So I think that's an interesting part of this as well.
Let's play Stormy Daniels. This is Stormy Daniels on Jimmy Kimmel, and this is after Donald Trump's State of the Union. This is January 30, 2018. Take a look.
Did you sign this letter that was released today?
I don't know. Did I?
Wait a minute. That you can say,
that does
right?
not look like my signature, does it?
It doesn't look like your signature. So you're saying perhaps this letter was written and released without your approval. Do you know where it came from? Do you have any idea?
I do not know where.
You did not know where it came from. So you deny.
It came from the internet.
So you did not have anything to do with this letter.
I also work for the FBI, and I'm a man, according to the internet.
Here is a picture of the letter. This is a January 30, 2018 denial written for Stormy Daniels by Keith Davidson. Over the past few weeks, I have been asked countless times to comment on reports of an alleged sexual relationship I had with Donald Trump many, many, many years ago. The fact of the matter is that each party to this alleged affair denied its existence in 2006, 2011, 2016, 2017, and now again in 2018. I'm not denying this affair because I was paid hush money, in quotes, as has been reported in overseas owned tabloids. I'm denying this affair because it never happened. No, Trump recently pointed to this as evidence of a denial.
Well, this was another fun moment where Keith Davidson presented this sort of non-denial denial, and he kind of had to reason with the jury that, well, if you really sort of break it down in finite language, it's true. And you're sitting there going, well, what actually, he actually
what
said
is an affair?
There was no romantic part, right, Sue Craig?
This was so great because this was, every reporter gets these, and they said, she was saying there was no romantic sexual relationship.
Right.
And then he was asked about, is that a truthful statement? And he said, yes. And he broke it down. He said, there was no romantic relationship and there was no sexual relationship. It was sex. So they're denying it through that way. And as well, he said there was no hush money because it was a civil contract of which
it was consideration.
It depends on what the meaning.
Every reporter has gotten these non-denial denials to the point where one of the reporters who worked on the story at the Wall Street Journal who broke some of this, he's now at the Times, he said, we knew it was a non-denial denial at the time.
Yeah, and that just means you're going to, it depends on what the meaning of is. They're just going to put Stormy Daniels on the stand and she's going to say what she's going to say, right?
No, I think that's exactly right. Again, The big news here is going to be Michael Cohen, but by the time we get to that, everyone will have been bloodied up. They're
dirtying up everybody.
But I don't know that that matters so much for this jury, right? I mean, at some point, the jurors are going to be anesthetized to all of the filth that has already been aired in this trial. I mean, they knew it was going to be filthy when they started, and it's been predictably filthy. I think that at some point you become inured to it. And by the time you actually get to what Michael Cohen is going to say, and you see the documents, because whatever you want to say about the documents, they're not filthy.
Right. And it doesn't matter.
And the recordings.
Yeah, that was another dynamite moment in court today where they played that recording with Michael Cohen and Donald Trump, where he's talking about gathering up, buying up all this information that David Peck has, in case he gets stuck, in case he gets hit by a truck.
Well, that was really, I mean, because you had all of this, like the defense emphasizing, like, Donald Trump is outside of the scheme. He's outside of the scheme. You've never met him. But there he is on tape talking to Michael Cohen. I wish we hadn't done that. I wish we hadn't paid the hush money to Stormy Daniels. And
then why is he asking, how's our girl Karen? Like, if he's not a part of it,
is he a rogue actor at a certain point? I mean, this is what they're really pushing that angle. And
this is why it feels like it doesn't make any sense. Because you can say Keith Davidson is a terrible person. You can say the National Enquirer is a tabloid. So what? If these people, good people or bad, got together and did a scheme to cover up because of his election, they did it.
The story remains consistent, right?
They're all saying they did
Keith Davidson throughout, David Pecker.
Yeah.
I mean, I think part of it, too, is like, these defense lawyers have an uphill battle here. Michael Cohen may be the crappiest witness ever for the prosecution, but Donald Trump's a pretty crappy defendant, too.
And by the way, first of all, do we really think Michael Cohen's going to be a bad witness? Michael Cohen has done this show a dozen times. Michael Cohen is a practiced communicator. He was Donald Trump's go-to communicator. He's done podcasts. He's done interviews. He has his own podcast. Michael Cohen is not going to be a bad witness. It's such a ridiculous argument.
He's not going to be a